This is Maureen Kafkas, the Brain BS coach, here to tell you about the episode today. I have a little bit of a cold, so bear with me. In this episode, I speak with life reinvention and body freedom coach Sarah Grace Powers. We introduce emotional freedom technique tapping and how it works for the first time on the podcast. Sarah will share how you can utilize EFT to clear emotional blocks and make healthier choices in every area of your life. And she will demonstrate how to do tapping on me. And there's lots of great information in the show notes where you can check out what tapping looks like in the places that you do it at before you watch the episode, or you could check it out after. So if you've been trying to do something for a really long time and no matter how hard you try, you just can't do it, this is going to be a tool that you're going to want to utilize. It's relatively inexpensive. You get coaching with it if you want, or you can do it on your own. Here you go, episode 135 of the Brain BS podcast, EFT Tapping with Sarah Grace Powers. Do you want more out of your life but not exactly sure what that might be? Are you longing for something but can't quite put your finger on what it is? That is the universe speaking to you, and it is time to listen up. I'm your host, Maureen Kafkas, the Brain BS coach. I created the Brain BS podcast to help people define what success means to them and show them how to get it. I help you to let go of fear and doubt and prepare your nervous system for success. I show you how to understand your own energy and to trust yourself to make all the decisions. If you are ready to go inward and stop looking outside yourself for all the answers, this is the podcast for you. Now let's get started. Hello and welcome back to the Brain BS podcast. I have a guest today, Sarah Grace Powers. Sarah, happy that you're here finally after multiple attempts to make this happen. And I want you to let the audience know whatever it is you would like them to know about you.
All right. Well, thanks for having me here. And I'm glad it's working out this time, Maureen. I'm Sarah Grace Powers, and I am a life reinvention and body freedom coach for women, midlife and beyond, 45, 50s, 60s, 70s, beyond. And I support women who really want to feel good in their bodies as the years go by and feel like they have the agency and the power to pursue what they want to in their life. This is a time in life where we get to let go of people pleasing and other behaviors that maybe were working before, but now not so much. So it's kind of a midlife midwife.
Right. And maybe they weren't really working that well at all, but we just kept doing them because we didn't know how to get out of them, and you can help them with that.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm a double certified life coach, and I also am an EFT tapping coach. So that's what we're going to talk about today is the EFT. And one of the things I do is help clients who are unhappy with their weight or with their bodies or with some of their choices around body stuff to feel aligned with making the choices that help them feel the best in their body.
Okay, great. And I'm assuming, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it had something to do with that led you to coaching in the first place, that your experience of that.
Yeah, it did. I actually, I've been in kind of the healing arts for like my entire adult life. I had an herb shop healing center place when I was in my 20s, 30s, and early 40s. And so I was always doing coaching, but I didn't know it was coaching, with the customers who came in. And a lot of it was around healing and feeling good in your body. But I had struggled with my weight all my life, up and down with weight. And then when I hit menopause, I suddenly, gained a bunch of weight, but I'd already become a coach. So I got into the niche around the weight loss after I lost weight. But before that, it really was kind of my divorce and sort of my midlife awakening, around age 50, where I kind of said, wait a minute, I want to do something more. And I had sold my shop a long time ago. And so I just ended up, the divorce was a huge shakeup. And I always say that my first certification was better than 10 years of therapy. So
yeah. Wow. And I love that you associate awakening with divorce, because I think that's a great way to, because that's what it is really. Or it can be.
yeah, it was the divorce sort of followed the midlife awakening. I mean, it was one of those, and not that everyone who has a midlife awakening has to get divorced, but often it does involve some life changes.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So I want you to introduce, because we've never talked, I've referred to tapping a few times on the podcast, but I haven't really gotten any details. And I really want to introduce people so that they know that it's a tool that's available to them. So can you give us a little background on EFT, what that stands for and what it's about?
Sure, yeah. So EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques, and it's a very simple modality that was developed, I don't know, a few decades ago, and it involves using your fingers to tap on specific meridian points on your body, your basically your face and your upper body, which connect to different nervous system areas. And what it does is it helps to sort of reduce the fight or flight response and the stress response. So it has literally been proven to lower cortisol levels in the body. And it's super simple to do. Now, it started, I'm not going to get into the full history, but it's just kind of interesting. Back in the early 60s, there was this psychotherapist, psychiatrist, who was also really interested in Chinese medicine. But back in those days, that was just considered quackery, and it was just like wasn't cool at all if you were like a medical professional to be into that. So he and like a couple of other guys on the down low were studying it. And this guy developed this like very complicated tapping system, which was called TFT. And he ended up like he had a longstanding patient with a water phobia that, nothing helped. And he literally did this tapping with her like for like 5 minutes, and like her water phobia was instantly cured. That's a short version of the story. It's a really cool story. So, but the problem with that one was it was very complex. You had to go see a psychotherapist and, do these really complex things. So then Gary Craig, who is considered like the father of EFT, came along. He was an engineer. He was a student of this guy, Roger Callahan. And he developed the much simpler system that we now know as EFT.
Which did you say what that stands for?
Emotional Freedom Techniques. So it basically will help create more emotional freedom in many different ways. So it's been, oh my gosh, it's like amazing the work they've done with like PTSD survivors, people like over in Rwanda. They worked with the parents and the children in Sandy Hook. I mean, it really has is one of the safest and easiest ways to help relieve symptoms of PTSD, phobias, like I was talking about. Really great for that. But just in everyday life, it just really helps to just calm stress and anxiety and help open you up to the more solution-based parts of your brain when your nervous system is kind of all seized up and shut down and you really don't have access to that.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think we all might have a little level of the post-traumatic stress disorder, right? Like some of us way more extreme than others. I don't mean to compare our day-to-day life with people who have like been in combat, but on our nervous
Yeah.
system, it can have a pretty big imprint. And so this is basically a way of unblocking those
Yeah.
emotions, would you say, so that you can open
Yeah.
yourself up and release the emotions?
Yeah, because I mean, you think about like acupressure and acupuncture, and if you know anything about that, I don't know much, but what part of the thing is that it's actually unblocking the channels, like the flows between these different meridian points, and kind of freeing up the prana or the chi or the life force, right? So with tapping, it's like a version of that. You're freeing up sort of that energy flow. And it actually really does, most people who tap notice an instant kind of calming or relief. Now, some people almost get sleepy and stuff, and there's some reasons for that. But yeah, and I totally agree. I think every single person deals with some form of trauma or another. In tapping, we often talk about big T and little T traumas, but really just being born is a trauma, I think, like going through that birth canal. And then we just have all the other things we go through in life that, do leave their imprints and affect our behaviors and our choices later on in life.
Yeah, and I was just talking to someone and she said something. This is Maria. She's coming on the podcast soon, but she just said we were talking about coaching and helping yourself and all the tools available. And I was saying how you don't have to go out and spend a lot of money to learn this information. Now, would it be helpful? Yes. Could it go quicker? Yes. But there are a lot of things that you can learn to do on your own. And I love that you can tap on your own because I've done it myself. I did find it helpful for somebody to do it with me first so that I could really learn it and understand it. But she said that the best coach for you is the one looking at you in the mirror.
Yeah, I love that. And there's so much validity to that. And sometimes we have our blinders on and there's stuff like right there that we can't see ourselves because of the filters and the blinders that we have on, somewhat because of those past experiences we were just alluding to. And then, yeah, you're right. One of the things I love about tapping, it's kind of like, I call it like teaching them to fish, that story of like, you can either give the starving people some fish or you can teach them how to fish. And tapping, people can take it with them anywhere they go and you can do it on your own. Now, there is a much deeper level of healing and evolving you can get to when you work with a practitioner regularly, because that's when you can go more deeply into some of those past experiences and clear out the charge that's associated with them. And so then that sort of helps you bring in new beliefs to carry forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes, saving that time and really just going for it and like is worth the amount of money for sure, because
time and the money, right?
Life experience is going to change and you're going to have more peace of mind.
But on the other hand, if you just tap by yourself regularly on a daily basis, you are going to improve definitely many aspects of your life.
Okay, great. Because I want whoever's listening to the podcast to first get an idea of what it is. So we're because Sarah's going to tap on me today for the audience, but you can't see us because it's all audio. So I asked her to send me a video or a link to a video in advance of where the different points are. So you might want to check that out before you continue listening to this and how we're doing it. Or you could check it out after and, whatever. But we're trying to make it so that you can get an idea. And then by the time you leave here today, if they can have a little routine or something that they do, Sarah, that would be great, or some way to get them started into making this a part of their routine.
Yeah. Yeah. And at that link that I'll give you, which is, I'm not going to say it, you'll just put it in the show notes, but there's also a card, it's when I would go to do live workshops, I would give out, and it has a graphic of the tapping points, right? And then a little description. So you can download that card or print it out or whatever. And then you have a little reminder of where the points are and everything. And then there's also
great.
a video that shows people how to do it as well.
Awesome. Okay, yeah. So before you tap on me, why don't you share with us some of the ways that you can utilize tapping and that it's helpful?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like I said, you can do it on a daily basis. You can start your day with it, and it can often be used if you're feeling a little bit stressed, or you're feeling a little down, or something's going on within your nervous system or your thinking patterns that you're not, you're wanting to shift. You kind of want to shift the state. The tapping can help you do it. Now, the way tapping works, a lot of people, especially in our coaching world, can sometimes be a little confused at first, because the way tapping works is you're actually really opening up to and acknowledging the problem at first. So you start with acknowledging a problem and having a statement of acceptance on one point. And then you spend a lot of time just really articulating and feeling into both the sensation and the feeling state of the problem, and maybe the thinking of the problem. And some people are like, well, why do that? Like, we don't want to be going to the negative. We want to think positive. And you think about law of attraction, and you want to just be in a good feeling state. So they want to emphasize that. But the way I think about that is like, if you were to say, be out bike riding and fall down in the gravel and get this big gash cut on your arm and get all this dirt and gravel in it. And then somebody was going to help you kind of fix it up, and they just got out the bandages and bandaged it all up. without actually like washing out the gravel, you'd be like, wait a second, something's wrong here. Like I don't know how well this is going to heal because there's just all this dirt in here. And so sometimes we tend to just put that bandage on over all the dirt and the gravel, like with our thinking or with when things aren't going well. And those parts of us like want to have a voice. They need to get that expression out. And it's kind of like cleaning out the wound. So when we tap, we really actually delve into the quote unquote negative stuff. And as you do that, you can like reduce the level of charge slowly as when you get specific about that. And then what I like to do in the end is then bring in because what you've started to access more of like the positive type thoughts you could have, basically what you also know is true. But when you're in that like constricted state, you don't have so much access to that. So you need to just open up to that, which can feel a little counterintuitive sometimes, but it actually is super powerful.
Okay, yeah, that you bring up a good point, because anytime we do any work that's related to us growing, we have to address what's going on first, and we have to deal with it before we can replace it or integrate it and move on to something else. And then I just want to point out, in terms of the law of attraction, we can try to feel better, but if the elbow is still there and it's dirty and it's painful and it's sore, the subconscious programming is always going to be louder than anything you're like trying to do, unless you actually believe it. So there's no amount of thinking your way out of things sometimes, because you have to go in, you have to clean out that space, and you kind of excavate there, and then you build a new foundation. So it takes more than thinking, right? Which is one of the
which is why people get frustrated. They're like, I've been doing all these affirmations, I'm saying all these positive things all the time, and nothing's changing. It's because that subconscious is like running a lot of the show. It's like some experts say that's 90% of what's really driving the train is the subconscious. And so then we have our conscious mind, what that like knows what it wants and has these agendas. That's only 10%.
Yeah.
So what tapping does is it actually can, it taps into that subconscious because it's a somatic tool. You're tapping on these meridian points while you're, speaking. So you're addressing both the conscious and the unconscious at the same time. And that's what can really help make those deeper level shifts.
Yeah, that mind-body connection is so important in order to change your subconscious programming. You have to address your body and your mind and bring it all together. So, okay. So why don't you tell us, like, do you have some favorite tapping stories of how you've helped people with it, or?
Oh gosh, you should have warned me. I when I'm on the spot like that, I always struggle a little. It's kind of like you get, as I've told you, I ask specific questions, you start talking, and then you're tapping, and like what happens is the person's face will totally change because there's suddenly like this breakthrough and this huge aha, and whatever it was that was like weighing on them and they just couldn't see any other way has like shift. Like this one woman her husband was really sick, and she was dealing with just a lot of conflicting feelings around that, and having to be a caretaker, and worries about the different financial implications. And I can't even remember what was coming through because this was a few years ago, but she just, all of a sudden it was just like, boom, like the light went on, and she just felt so much relief about the whole thing and was able to show up more authentically for her husband and herself in this situation. So,
Yeah, I'm not sure that people can fully understand what a big deal that is, that haven't actually stepped into their authentic self, because it is really, really freeing. And isn't it amazing? Like there's no going back once you do it, because the level of freedom that you have just being yourself and being open, honest, and transparent leaves you energy for so many other things. Well, you did good on this spot coming up with a story. So
yeah. Now I'm thinking of a couple others, but the other thing that, just because we're going to talk a little bit about the whole healthy choices aspect is, it is really effective for food cravings, and they have all kinds of studies on this one and everything. And And it's just really bizarre how it works. But I had a client who, we were working a lot with weight release and, being able to be more mindful about, her food choices and things like that. And she had this like oatmeal cookie addiction, I guess. And she would make these oatmeal cookies. And every time she sees me or she's in one of my workshops again, she's always like, that tapping session, I never wanted an oatmeal cookie again. I just like lost that desire for the oatmeal cookies. And it just like, she's still amazed. And I am too, honestly. Sometimes I just feel like the food craving thing is, I don't want to say mysterious, but it's just so interesting how it just kind of shifts something in the subconscious. And it's just like, boom.
Yeah, and I would imagine that happens for the people who are really ready to release the craving for the cookie. Like they're at that point and they're set up for it and they've been doing other things to prepare, and then it's just time. Because I just started getting back to eating clean like a week and a half ago. And I'm amazed by how much easier it is this time for the first time ever. And it's just like things that I craved before, or like I'm drinking black coffee to not interfere with my intermittent fasting. That would have been like such a sacrifice before. And now I'm like, oh, I kind of like it. So
Wow.
weird. Never thought I could drink black coffee in my entire life. And
That's
today I told my husband, oh my God, this is the only time in my life I'm having a second cup of black coffee.
So something just internally shifted. Yeah. And I think that can happen. Although that food craving thing, I've seen, Gary Craig famously did it many times in big groups, and other people have done it where there's just a bunch of random people who have never worked on it before, and they'll pass out like chocolate kisses or whatever and do this whole thing where people are like, their desire for the chocolate kiss is like at a level 9 or 10. And then by the end of it, they're just like, just have no interest in the thing at all.
Yeah, that's super interesting.
Yeah,
All
sure.
right. Well, what do you think? You ready to start tapping on me?
Yeah. So let's have at it. So tell me, as I mentioned to you before, I guess when we were talking offline, was the more specific you can be about what's going on, the more effective the shift is. Although no matter what, you're going to find some value and some relief. So what's going on with you right now that you would like to do a little tapping on?
Okay, so funny because I didn't have this idea before I came on here, and it wasn't until you just asked me that question. But
Okay.
I am trying to be more mindful of how I start my week, which means I want to eat healthier on Sundays and not crave wine. I would
Okay.
like to drink less wine. I drink wine on Fridays and Saturdays, and it's fun and I enjoy it.
Okay.
By the time the third day is coming around, if I'm pretending like it's a weekend day. So I like to think of Sundays as the beginning of my week in a way to set the tone for them instead of the end of a weekend.
Okay. Okay. Right. Okay. And so why, what about that isn't working for you?
Well, growing up, my mom and dad, like their favorite night was to send us all out of the house and pay for us to go to the movies. And they would have drinks and hang out and sit by the fire and listen to music on Sundays. So I've always associated Sundays as sort of like an indulgent kind of day where you could just hang out, relax, have some drinks, but I don't want to do that anymore. I'm finding that it makes me less energetic and not as present when I start the week. And I guess I'm getting to the point now where I just want to change it a little bit and reduce some of the impact of that.
Okay. So, so how did that look for you like this past Sunday? Like what did anything come up where you were like, oh, but I want some wine? Or because this is the thing about the tapping is it's really helpful to get into like an actual example before we start tapping, because we could just tap on this and it would be kind of helpful just to help you reinforce your commitment to yourself and attention. But what you want to do is sort of delve into whatever resistance still remains, if any does, right?
It does.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So say this past Sunday, today's Tuesday, that when we're recording this, Did you notice that? Like you were thinking to yourself, all right, I really want to do this a different way. I don't want it to just be the kind of indulgent day. Did you feel like you wanted some wine? Did you feel like, I mean, what happened?
Yes, I can be very specific because I actually did a food plan, which
Okay.
includes the amount of drinks that I want to have.
Yeah.
So I did that. And then when it came time, as the day progressed and it got later in the day, I was kind of like, well, because that's when it starts. Then I'm like, well, I mean, it doesn't really matter how many I have, but I had my plan, but I knew I wasn't going to have as much as I do. I wasn't going to have like 3 or 4 glasses. I knew I was going to keep it, like I wanted to keep it at 2. And I
Okay.
ended up doing 2.5.
Okay.
And I actually felt pretty good about it that I did, because I did reduce it, but I want to get more solid on my commitment to maybe even eliminating it. I don't know. Like I don't really want all or nothing at this point, or black or white. So I'd like to be able to be in the moment and just enjoy a glass of wine if I feel like it. And if I don't, then I don't have it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it sounds like that's what you're doing though, or is it not?
I definitely have a thing with weekends associated with treating yourself and drinking
Okay.
wine. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like a
Okay.
weekend mentality of indulging.
Okay. And so, and one other thing that is useful to understand is that the tapping use generally works the best with like what you're feeling it right now in the moment versus like how you felt then. And
Okay.
sometimes I get a little, but so we could tap on how you felt then, but it might be good for you now to like think about how you're feeling now about this Sunday. So you just did 2.5 glasses of wine, but your drink plan said 2 glasses. Yeah. And you said you feel pretty good about it, but there's a part of you that doesn't feel good about it because you wouldn't be bringing this up.
Yeah, so the Brain BS podcast is all about living consciously and staying present. Um,
Okay.
Sometimes in the past, I've gotten perfectionistic about that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I feel good, because I'm not making a big deal out of it. But I would really like to start considering other options for how I enjoy myself,
Right.
treat
Okay.
myself, other than alcohol. So I guess
Okay.
that's what we're really getting to, is
Yeah.
figuring out how to have fun and feel like I'm treating myself without having alcohol.
Yeah. Okay. And so, yeah. And this is kind of like coaching because, when we're coaching, we kind of want to bring out like, kind of that like little whiny part that like, like your more wiser, connected self is like, yeah, I want to find options other than alcohol and I want to have fun without alcohol. But what's the part that's like, no, it has to be, wine and that's it. Or what comes up like, what does that little voice say when you say this, that you want to?
Um, really? Do we have to? We've been having so much fun doing that. We've been doing it forever. Why would we change now?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So when you think about that part of you and what's her feeling? Like what is she feels kind of does she feel resentful or rebellious or
She's definitely not rebellious. I don't think honestly, I think she's a little smug. She's pretty
okay,
confident that she's going to get her way because she has all this time. So
okay.
I don't feel any animosity for her or anything, but I'm just like, come on now. We need to come together on this, and all of us together, my
Yeah,
wise adult self and my adaptive child self, come together and let's negotiate so we can still have fun, but maybe feel a little bit fresher and ready to go on Mondays, and maybe get my weight down a bit.
okay, okay. So there's like a conflicted feeling almost because you've
Yeah.
got the selves, the two pieces of you that are a little bit at odds because the
Well,
child
yeah.
self is going, oh, we've been doing it forever. Come on. And the adult self is like, let's come together. Let's still have fun, but let's feel more healthy and, grounded for our week.
Yeah. And then my husband likes to have a drink too. And my mom and dad have
Mhm.
drinks together. So I think that's part of it too, is thinking, well, but we do that together. And if he doesn't want to do that, would I be disappointing him? But he really wouldn't care.
Okay. Yeah. So that's a
Yeah.
whole nother aspect,
Yeah.
sort of that, like, not wanting to disappoint husband, or
Yeah.
maybe it's like a sneaky way the child self is like getting her way too by introducing that idea.
Oh,
But
for sure. She's being sneaky. You're right. That's exactly
yeah,
what.
yeah, yeah. But so as far as the tapping goes, like what we want to do is access an emotion or something that's happening that you feel like, and we rate that, on that scale of 0 to 10, right? If you've tapped before, so so 0 is like there's no problem at all. So if we took the conflicted, would that be something you think that would be
Yeah, I
useful?
think that would actually be useful because I think that's
Yeah,
the problem because I'm really good when I decide to do something. I am
yeah,
all in. I quit smoking. I quit doing a lot of things so I can do it, but
yeah.
it's making up my mind to do it. It's conflicted or indecisive.
Yeah, okay. Indecisive, indecisive. So right now, which do you feel more strongly, indecisive or conflicted?
Conflicted.
Okay, all right. So thinking about that conflicted feeling, that kind of little battle that's going on inside about Sundays, how strong is that conflicted feeling on that scale of 0 to 10, with 0 being no conflictedness at all and 10 just being like, ah, it's like this roaring battle inside your brain.
Oh, well, in the past, I've had roaring battles in my brain around drinking, but now it's not. No, I would say it's in the like right now.
Yeah, let's go with right now. But then you can take this into those times when it gets stronger. Like you can use this same tapping later, right?
Okay, and the bigger the number, the stronger
Yeah,
it.
I mean, just imagining yourself, but what you want, it's right now, but you're really imagining yourself at Sunday and, everybody else is having a drink and you've already reached your limit or whatever it is.
I
What's
think
that
I'm
look?
a 4 or 5.
Okay. All right. So you're 4 or 5. So we'll tap so that we can show everybody what the tapping is. And then ideally what's happening is sometimes the feeling goes up as you tap, or
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it stays the same and sometimes it goes down. And ideally we're trying to, or not ideally, but well, I guess ideally we bring that level down. So especially if it's up at an 8 or 9, we bring that level down to like a 2 or below, so that then we can access more of like what we want, right? But now we're going to give the conflicted feeling some energy. So it's a
Awesome.
4 or 5. So we start our tapping, and again, some of you will look on that card, but there's basically 10 tapping points, and the first one is the side of the hand. Some people call it the karate point, and we tap with our other hand with about 4 fingers, and this is where we do our statement of acceptance. So say, even though I feel so conflicted about Sundays,
Even though I feel so conflicted about Sundays,
it's always been an indulgent day,
it's always been an indulgent day,
and I've really liked that.
and I've really liked that.
But now I'd like to be a little healthier and start my week on a good start.
Yeah, now I'm a little healthier and I want to start my week with a better start. And my body feels bad when I drink 3 days in a row.
Yeah. So I'm feeling this conflict inside of me.
So I'm feeling this conflict inside of me.
One part just wants to go ahead and indulge,
One part just wants to go ahead and indulge,
and the other part wants to be more solid on this commitment to my health.
and the other part wants to be more solid to this commitment on my health.
And even with this conflict,
And even with this conflict,
I can still deeply accept and love myself.
I can still deeply accept and love myself.
Okay, and that's what's known as a setup statement, as you know. We're just going to do it once, but we can do that 3 times.
Okay.
And then we're going to start tapping. I generally start with this inside eyebrow point.
Okay.
So, and I'll just share with the audience that where you start and how you tap and how many points you tap doesn't really matter. It's a very forgiving modality. So let's go. This conflicted feeling.
This conflicted feeling.
And then we're going to go to the side of the eye. These 2 parts of me are just at odds.
These 2 parts of me are just at odds.
Under the eye. can I have fun without having all that wine?
Can I have fun without having all that wine?
Under the nose. This one part says, no way.
This one part says, no way.
Chin. And she's pretty confident she's going to get her way.
And she's pretty confident she's going to get her way.
Collarbone. I've often given in to her.
I've often given in to her.
Under the arm. But I really want to be starting my week feeling healthy.
But I really want to start, starting my week feeling healthier.
Top of the head. I don't like that feeling of 3 nights in a row of drinking.
I don't like that feeling of 3 nights in a row of drinking.
Inside eye. But then again, I really love just taking it easy and doing what I want on Sunday.
But then again, I really love doing what I want and taking it easy on Sundays.
These two conflicted parts of me.
These two conflicted parts of me.
Under the eye. This conflict inside my body.
This conflict inside my body.
Under the nose. This conflict inside my head.
This conflict inside my head feels more true than my body. My body already knows what I want. It's the conflicts in my mind.
Okay. The conflicts in my mind.
The conflict in my mind.
There's a part of me that just really wants to just relax.
There's a part of me that just really wants to just relax.
Under the arm. And another part of me that loves the feeling of being a little more careful about what I'm consuming.
And there's another part of me that wants to be more careful about what I'm consuming.
Top of the head. This conflict that gets to me every Sunday.
This conflict gets to me every Sunday.
Okay, and then we're going to stop and take a pause and a nice slow breath. And then checking in with the conflicted feeling, the conflicted brain. And did anything else come up?
No, I'm just noticing that what's coming up for me is that sometimes I can and sometimes I don't want to. It depends on how I'm feeling on Sundays. So there's a part of that conflicted part that doesn't want to stop. Doesn't feel like my adaptive child self, like the part of me that she doesn't sound like she's trying to be a problem or in charge. It's almost like there's another person in there that's talking to me that is not either my wise adult self or the other, but it's just like, for me to just approach this like I approach everything else in the moment and listen to my body. And what
Right.
feels good, but that could be my ego being sneaky because I don't always listen to my body in the moment when it comes to wine.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that there's a lot going on here, and we do have like these multiple parts, and it sounds like there's sort of an intermediary part. And that's why in the beginning I was asking you about this. I was like, is this even really a problem? Because there is a part of you that's like, we're just going to choose this in the moment. Now, if you were in a stage of, kind of your life, even just meeting maybe 2 months ago or whatever, that you were struggling more with this, like the wine drinker was just kind of gaining a lot of power and causing more problems, this would probably be a more effective tapping session, because then we'd be able to really work with that. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And then the other piece is, when we're tapping, and it was something I kind of forgot to mention and ask you about, but what we do want to do is check in with how the emotion is feeling in our body. So the conflict is somewhere in your body, even though you were feeling it more in your head, but it's usually a lot easier to access it in our heads for most of us. But, these emotions do live in our bodies, as I know, as a coach. So working with that. So just checking in right now, from a grounded place with the conflicted feeling that was like a 4 or 5. From what you said, it sounded like it might have gone down a little, but I'm just curious if you thinking it's like Sundays and just wanting to drink more wine than wise self is asking.
Yeah, I feel it in my, now that you say that it is in my body, I feel it right like by my throat, just below my throat, in a
Okay.
very small area and kind of into my jaw
Okay.
is where I'm
Okay.
feeling it. It feels like a little bit of tension,
Okay.
and talking about it more, putting it out to the universe and on my podcast, and with everyone, it definitely feels different. Um,
Yeah.
I feel a little excitement
Mm-hmm.
over the fact that I'm taking this step, because I think that's getting me closer in the direction of where I want to go. But I also want to offer you that even though I'm not really struggling, like I can feel something happening doing this. So you don't necessarily have to really be struggling and be a 9 or a 8 to benefit, but it's just more subtle. But I think the more we work on ourselves and evolve, those subtle things can make a huge difference for us.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. And that's very self-aware, noticing that tension there below your throat and into your jaw, and just feeling into that for a moment. I'm wondering, if you were to rate that on the scale of 0 to 10, which that scale is really, it's called a subjective unit of distress. So it's just subjective, it's just a guess, but it's like how distressing really is that feeling?
Like a 3.
Yeah. So it's pretty low. So but
Yeah.
that's you're right. Like those subtle shifts. And I think, and I could be wrong here, but part of what's going on now is this sense of excitement at, at really being vulnerable like this, like kind of putting out some of the stuff, on your podcast and everything, which is like very cool to be tuned into.
Yeah, no, it feels really good. I just
Yeah.
love being transparent because I think that I think that this is something I've been thinking about doing for a long time. It's never caused me at different points. I'm going to correct myself. At different points in the past, it was a huge thing for me. And I thought I had to stop drinking, and I had because that was my brain BS making me think that that was at the core of all my problems. And it turns
Right.
out it's not. And,
Hmm.
but I've been thinking about it a long time, but it's the first time that I ever voiced it out loud to anyone other than my husband. So I feel like it's kind of, putting a ripple in a collective energy out there of things are going to happen and evolve, and yeah, I don't know. I feel good.
Yeah. It's like taking this step is going to like shift things a little bit for
Yeah.
you. Just right. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so what I want to offer is, for you and also for anyone else in the audience listening to this that might have similar struggles, it's true, these like little subtle shifts, like, for you, it wasn't this like really intense distress, but that shift is going to help shift your behavior. And then also you can take tapping like this into Sunday. So in those moments, like you're at that decision point and you start to feel that conflict, like when you do, sometimes you might not, but when you do, like, ooh, these two parts of me are kind of arguing right now. It's like, let me tap on that now. Like, let me tune in to where, what that level is of how sort of frustrated or intense this feels, this conflict, and tap on it without necessarily an agenda. I mean, maybe, you might want, it's like basically your parts have their separate agendas.
Yeah.
And, but maybe just tapping on the sensation of the conflict, and that will help you come to like a more aligned with your true essential self decision of which direction you want to go in. If that makes
Yeah, I
sense.
love that. And I actually think it's really good that we did it on this, because I think there's bazillions of people out there that are conflicted, that are stuck in no man's land because they can't decide one way or the other. But I want to be mindful of our time because we're starting to go a little bit longer. And I want to make sure that you get to tell people how they can work with you.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm a one-on-one coach, and I do have a program. I do one-on-one coaching really with like women in that age group for the most part. around whatever is going on and whatever they really want to create in their life, like they feel locked up about. And we use EFT. We also use a lot of mindset coaching tools, and I'm training in breath work. But I do also have a program that I include in my one-on-one coaching package for women who are frustrated with their body and with some of their choices. It's called the Menopausal Weight Release Solution, but you don't have to be in menopause to do it. Before, after, during. And what it does is it's a combination of mindset tools and EFT tapping and some kind of latest science strategy and research to help women who would like to release some weight and are finding it harder to do when they get to that time of life. And that was kind of, like I alluded to earlier, my story. And so I kind of put together a lot of what I learned and what worked for me, and then what's worked for my clients. So that's, and you can reach me on my website. You'll put all that on my
Show notes.
and or Instagram or Facebook. And then I do have my class coming up. Should I talk about that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I'm going to be doing an online class workshop with EFT. It's called EFT for Healthy Choices. So it's really, healthy choice is a very broad term. It's mostly geared to wanting to make choices around health in your body, possibly your weight. But it's also really, you think about healthy choices, like what's a health, like just even what we were just demoing, like maybe the healthy choice in some case is to have another glass of wine, because it's taking care of a part of you that needs to relax. So whatever you are feeling, the healthy choices you want to make, but you're feeling blocked about, EFT can help. And so this class, we're going to do some EFT together and learn more about it. And that's happening on May 15th.
Okay.
Monday.
And is that class free, or are you charging for that
It's
class?
free. That's a free class. Yeah. Yeah. That's
Okay,
like
cool.
an introductory free class. Yeah.
And it's on Facebook.
No, it's on Zoom.
It's on Zoom. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so I'll have information on Facebook and Instagram, and I'll put it on my website. I've been a little lax about updating, but this is motivating me. Maybe I'll do some chopping around that and get on the healthy choice of updating my website and putting things like my classes on there.
I love that. All right. Was there anything that you didn't say that you want to say, or that you think the audience needs to hear, or did we cover all of it?
I'm sure there's so many things. There's so much to this whole topic, but I guess I just really want to say that wherever you are is already perfect. But when we are humans and we always aspire to evolve and shift, and we have ideas of where we want to go, and EFT is just a great tool to help you hack into that subconscious and move past things that, like, maybe you don't understand that are in your way.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming and being on the podcast this week.
Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed it, Maureen.
Okay, audience, I know you learned something valuable here today. See you next episode. Thanks for being here and learning about Brain BS. I hope you enjoyed listening to the episode as much as I enjoyed creating it for you. If you did, please take a little time to do a quick review, give me 5 stars, and share it with everyone you know. If you're actually interested in being on the podcast yourself or have questions about it, you can find me in the Brain BS podcast community on Facebook. See you next time.